can't explain why you chose this fight. Things were going pretty well. We were voting on judges. None of us would pick. I voted for most of them. Some people over here voted for others. Sort of the way it works. And now we're in a ditch. I mean, it's going to be a long day. We're going to get zero done. You're going to have a complete show. But if that's what you want, that's what you're going to get.
The headline for me is that Lindsey Graham thinks that's the ditch. Hi again, everybody. It's 5 o'clock in New York. That is how Republicans responded today to an effort to hold one of the three branches of the United States government to the same kind of ethics accountability as all the others. With that, an obstruction. Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee have been pushing for an ethics code for the Supreme Court, an effort they have strengthened and accelerated in recent months in response to and in light of reporting about conservative justices accepting free hospitality and travel without disclosing it properly. Originally, the committee was scheduled today to vote on subpoenas for billionaire Republican donor Harlan Crow and conservative legal activist Leonard Leo. But overnight, Republicans filed 88 amendments in an attempt to impede those votes. They got what they wanted, at least temporarily. The votes were delayed due to the barrage of amendments from Republicans. But Judiciary Chair Senator Dick Durbin vowed that the votes will still take place, saying this, quote, "The highest court in the land cannot have the lowest ethical standards." And he called out his Republican colleagues for grandstanding. Over the past few months, we have learned a whole lot about the lavish gifts bestowed upon Supreme Court justices, people like Clarence Thomas and his expensive vacations gifted from Crow, or a 2008 fishing trip to Alaska for Justice Samuel Alito, coordinated by Leo. It's a remarkable moment in our politics right now, where Republicans are trying to stop Democrats from uncovering the truth about an institution with a record low approval rating from all Americans. Confidence in the highest court in the land currently stands at just 27%, according to the latest Gallup polling. In addition to the lavish gifts, it was the Supreme Court that voted to overturn Roe versus Wade. It's a ruling which has cost Republicans huge in every single election since the decision, including on Tuesday, when the reddish state of Ohio voted to enshrine abortion rights into their state constitution. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee who has been a longtime advocate for more transparency and higher ethics when it comes to the court, issued a statement on the subpoenas being held up today, saying this, quote, "In an ordinary time and with an ordinary Supreme Court, this would have been an uneventful day. Billionaires with demonstrated interest in influencing the court, making enormous secret gifts to justices, obviously merits investigation. By putting up 90 amendments, Republicans jammed the gears of the committee. We will still go forward now that we have seen this strategy with united support on the Democratic side for getting to the bottom of what is going on with this pattern of secret billionaire gifts to justices." That is where we start the hour with some of our favorite experts and friends. The aforementioned Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island is here. Also joining us, Executive Director for Fix the Court, Gabe Roth is back. With me at the table, State Attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, Dave Ehrenberg is back. Senator, I start with you. I want to start with Tuesday night. I worked in politics, and when I worked in politics, I was always pretty skeptical of the polls, sometimes to the pollsters' chagrin. But I feel like this issue of reproductive health care is about reproductive health care. It is also about the court. And I wonder how you saw Tuesday night's results.
Well, first of all, I think Tuesday night's results were an incredibly powerful public statement by the American people across the country in multiple elections that, thanks, we do not appreciate having rights that we've enjoyed for a generation taken away from us. So that's the baseline. Then you throw in the court that did it, and it begins to smell a little rotten because of all of the machinations around the court of the far right-wing billionaires and how that decision, among many others, looks a lot like it has been delivered by the court for big donors who helped put the justices who delivered it on the court.
You know, I also, again, I've drawn more on my past experience as a Republican today than perhaps any point in 8 years. I'm not sure why, but Republicans have relied on two things to drive their base. And it may all be replaced by frothy frenzy for Donald Trump. I don't know anymore. But they relied on shaping the court and overturning Roe. Those things are both gone. And I wonder what opportunities you've been talking about these issues. I mean, the idea that Republicans are going to further weaken this thing that's a political ball and chain for them is almost laughable. Part of me watched what they did today and said, knock yourself out. But I know you care about the court and the institution. So I wonder how you saw their antics today.
Yeah, I think politically, every time they draw attention to their efforts to defend the court from the most basic oversight to which every other federal judge is subject, they don't have a very good story to tell about it. And the degree of agitation about it on their part is really unjustified by any normal, ordinary, sensible, rational measure. What it, I think, has to go back to is the fact that they've got some very big billionaires who not only spent a lot of money to acquire this court, but spent a lot of money to acquire the Republican Party. If you look behind the big Republican super PACs, I'm pretty sure you'll find the same billionaires that you'll find behind the court capture operation. So they're in a state of real alarm that if they let down their big billionaires and let down the court that is delivering all these goodies for them, they're going to be in political harm's way. But the public has a completely different view of this, and it just shows how responsive Republicans have become to a right-wing billionaire elite rather than to the regular, normal voters.
So tell us what happens next.
So now that we've seen that what they're going to try to do is flood the committee with last-minute amendments so that in one night you've got to try to get the entire Democratic side aligned on 90 different votes. That's not going to happen. But now that we know that that's their strategy, we can plan for it. And Chairman Durbin is going to call this back up at a time that he will decide on. And then we'll go through whatever their amendments are, but we'll be ready and we'll get these subpoenas for Harlan Crow and for his corporations and for Leonard Leo, and then we'll move forward. Interestingly, two of the other billionaires have already started to cooperate with us. So we're beginning to make progress even before the subpoena vote.
What do you want to ask Crow personally?
I want to know how many gifts there were, just for starters. We don't know what the full array is of generosity that was given to Clarence Thomas or to his wife. We know that there's a lot, but figuring out what it all was is kind of the baseline. And then you want to look at how interconnected it was. When you see that Crow gave $500,000 to Justice Thomas's wife's new entity that she set up, and then Leonard Leo, who was in the painting with, Clarence Thomas, also directed $25,000 to Mrs. Thomas. You want to know what's the rationale behind all that? Who's pulling what strings? How do these things actually connect? What's the plot line that connects all of these different episodes of, let's just call it generosity for now?
It's very generous. And then let me just ask the same question of Leo, who has, in some ways, a more intricate, he has his fingers in every aspect of this, on the political side and the judicial side.
Yeah, he has his fingers in all of this. One of the letters that we got back from one of the billionaires talking about a free trip that he gave to Justice Alito announced that he had given the free trip to Alito after a conversation with Leonard Leo. And Leonard Leo was in the Harlan Crow painting. And Leonard Leo sent the money to Ginny Thomas. And Leonard Leo went on a fishing trip separately with Alito, and on and on and on. Almost wherever you touch this network of right-wing billionaires and the justices they put on the court, you see their intermediary, their little functionary, Leonard Leo. So he's a very, very important center of this little web of scheming.
Is your theory of the case that there's going to be, because the subpoenas will go forward, you will hopefully have a chance to ask these questions of these gentlemen, that there's some smoking gun Or is it to reveal for the American people who are paying very close attention now to the Supreme Court? Just ask Sam Alito, who's super cranky about it every time the Wall Street Journal dials his home phone. Is it just to reveal to the American people how netted up and how corrupt it is?
I think probably more the latter. I mean, we may turn up instances of lawbreaking, particularly around tax filings or potential false statements that were made. But I think the bottom line here is that we simply cannot have a United States Supreme Court that is captured like a 19th century railroad commission and is doing what the railroad barons tell it. You just can't live in a democracy with a court that runs that way. And to fix that, the first thing you need to do is show to the American people the full depth of the problem so that we can all agree on the appropriate solution.
Do you think there's a tipping point for the court where you know they're at 27%? They have fallen the farthest, the fastest in terms of any institution in American public or civic life. Do you think there's a point where they come and play and say, you know, Uncle, we need ethics, help us? Or do you think they're just too cocooned and bunkered to do that?
No, I think there are two tipping points. One is the tipping point where the Chief Justice says, I'm not going to wait for unanimity. If we have to vote through a proper ethics code 7-2, that's what we'll do. We took away women's rights 5-4. We can damn well vote for an ethics code 7-2. And that, I think, breaks the ice at the court. The second tipping point is when the judges on the Judicial Conference, the body that runs the judicial branch, get so fed up that they tell the Chief Justice, look, this just doesn't stand any longer. We run our disciplinary procedures. We know what the rules are. We know what you've done is wrong. We know what they're saying is nonsense. This has to stop. And I think we're close to both of those tipping points.